Right, so we saw the difference between the Eved Naaman and the Eved HaPoshut. And we saw that the devotion of the Eved Naaman is mitzad the Geidel HaSoger that he has in the godless of the Odain and in the Geidel HaTainug that he has from the knowledge that he is Mo'era and Goyrem and Nachas Ruach Amitius to the Odain Alidei Avidose. Evamere, the Tainug that he has is emes. It's based on the Nachas Ruach of the Odain, but it's how he is pleased with the fact that he is Misane, and he's Someach, as you might say. The Simcha Bezeh that the Odain has Tainug v'Nachas Ruach. That's what we saw. Whenever we learned the Maskona, Beneged to the Eved Naaman is that ultimately and sof he is a Matzias B'fnei Atzma. In other words, despite the tremendous devotion that he has to Adonai, he is a Matzias B'fnei Atzma. Af shekol inyonei b'chaim is avodas ha'odin, and his devotion is unquestionable. It's in Haim Madrega until he's mishabeach. We saw in his mashbiach. He causes a profit and an improvement in all the inyonim of the Odain. And that causes a tremendous nachas ruach to the Odain. The simcha of the Eved Naaman comes from that nachas ruach. That's the ikar. In other words, he's not a matzias b'fnei atzmai in the sense that he thinks about himself. In other words, it's not the pshat that simchosei is in the fact that he's able to be involved in misasei, such inyonim nailim u'gevoyim. That's not his simcha. His simcha is mitzad the nachas ruach and the simcha of the other. But sof he has simcha from the fact that the other has nachas ruach or simcha. Shaken, we saw the inyan of the Eved Poshut. The inyoni is that he is not a Matzias the Atzmai Cloud. Because the yesod of his whole Aveda is achvarach mitzad Kabbalah Seo of the Odain and achvarach mitzad devotion. So whenever he does anything for the Odain, then he doesn't do it mitzad atzmai, mitzad any motivation. On the contrary, we even saw a dikduk in Yonov from the other Poshet that it's a fila neged rotzainoi b'emes. The whole inif and the Aveda. Nimtzah that when he does any prat, Avidosei, for the sake of the other, and then he does it, even which is Mavatal, his own Matzias, the Gamma. Which means that the Kabbalah Sel Malchus Shamayim, the Eved Poshit, is Ainin, which is Bittul Matziusei, Mikor V'Kor. He has no Matzias, the Atzmei at all. And therefore he's not even, how do you call, Ma'iz bi'atzmai, he doesn't even have the what you might call the broadness and the brazenness to think in himself that he's being goyrem and nachas ruach. To the Odain, or his whole concern is to carry out what he's supposed to do, and to do what the Odain told him, and to do it b'shleimus, aki efshari v'chulu. Mitzad the Kabbalah Seir and the Eir of the Odain sha'olah. Nimtzah that asks us the Shaila, where does he have any tainug b'avidos? So we saw, we went along in the whole inyan at the hemshech at the maima that the tainug and the simcha that there is by the Eved Poshut Das ist mitzad the tainug v'simcha of the Oden be'atzmei. In other words, it's not that he has simcha from the fact that the Oden has simcha. No, he doesn't have any simcha be'atzmei klal. That what there is meir be'avidosei a simcha and a tainug, but that's a koyach hatmidius. Otherwise, he would just he would freeze up the Eved Neman. It wouldn't be sharp to be mamshir. I'm sorry, the Eved Posher. There's meir be'avidosei hu the tainug in the simcha of the Odem, or in the Nimshal. That means that Kavioho, the simcha Shalamayla is his simcha. It's a meir Milamayla in Avidosei hu. And that's the Ikka difference between the Eved Neman and the Eved Posher. That's the Ikka called Inon. Because in them, come to say that there are two Nakudas, Aleph, that the Eved Neman in Yoni is what Sof Kosof. He's a Matthias, the Kedusha, a Matthias Gedola, the Kedusha. It's not a Matthias in a negative sense, but he's a Matthias Li'atzmei. Mashagin, the Eved Posher is Einu B'Pinas Matthias Li'atzmei. And base is that the experience of the Aveda, what you might call the Teitzoah, which comes from the Aveda, the Hainu, the Inyan HaSimcha, or the Nachas Ruach, and the Koyach to be Mamshik the Aveda, is also different than in the Eved Neman that comes mitzad Atzmei, Sof Kosof. He himself is a motivated individual, and therefore he keeps going, and he's margish, and he's literally marviach, as you might say, betoicha. He has a profit and a revach in himself at the inyan at the simcha, albeit be'ikah it's mitzad the simcha shalamayla. The Eved Posher, he has no inyan le'atzmei klal afila in the regishu aveda. What does it inyan at simcha? No, his simcha is only mitzad the simcha shalamayla. Therefore, it comes out of his hair that he doesn't have, it's not shy by him, any inyan of what you might call a reward or a revach in his Aveda. Therefore, we were medactic, it's about him that's written, the Ika loy to you, the Kavodim, Amashamshim, Mesarav, Almanas, the Kabel Pras, Ela to you, Kavodim, Amashamshim, Mesarav, Shalel Manas, the Kabel Pras. In other words, by him it's not oila ala machshova, the inyan from Prat. There should be any inyan kill which is his or magia loy. And on the contrary, if there's any inyan from Prat, then kol masha koine eved kon rabba. He says if there's any inyan which is shy kilo atoitzoa mi is afraid, then that belongs to the other, and that doesn't belong to him. And that's b'chol ha'inyanim and b'chol ha'matreiges, until we saw bizafila the inyan from inyan ruchnish avavidosa, the inyan hasimcha. It's also shach acharach leha'odeh. So that's where we're be'erach. Those were the maskonas that we reached in the inyan of the difference between the two aved. And so therefore, the what you might call the madrege of his aveda beneged to what it achieves, kavioho lamayla, is also that his aveda reaches, as we might call in the Indian, an atzmus mamish lamayla, because since kosof it's only for the sake of the order in kipshuta, therefore it's oila or magia and mamish in the madreges of the Eberster and oiros ha'elyonim adel maila mikol hagiluim and maila mikol what you might call hamshoches, or the madreges of the earth which are oimet lahimoshe, and the pu'ula of his aveda, or the reaching of his aveda lamaila is mamish in atzmus. The Eved Neman, despite all the tremendous milas in his Aveda, he reaches only the Oiris V'ge Giluim Haraya Lamaila. In other words, there's certain madrigas Lamaila which have already been nimshach mi'atzmas in a form of what we call oiris, albeit in that group of many madrigas, but they're only any of an oiris, not the atzmas mam. And that's the hamshocha alidei the way that the Eved Nema, or the Eved Pashut, then mitzvah the fact that he has no matzias whatsoever. Kilo, his whole avodah is in an even what he's not there really. His whole inyan is only to be just as we'll see as we go along, a form of a yad of the ordering bilvad. Therefore, he literally works mitzad the atzmus of the ordering. He's what you might call like a eva of the ordering atzmus. Therefore, avidose is also mitzad the inyan atzmus. And that's basically where we were holding. I think in the Eved Neman, and therefore we have to say that in Nefesh it's also the same, that he reaches the inyan of Giluim Lamaila, because his inyan is also still somehow or another connected with Koichos of the Nefesh, with Giluim of the Nefesh. The Eved Pashut inyan is what he's completely and utterly devoted beyond even the Giluim of the Nefesh. It's only the etzem of his nefesh which is makusha, even though Begilui HaKoyches he doesn't really, he would claim that he doesn't really know what really goes on in the Pnimis Advarim. His whole inyan is only to serve the order. But we have to say that touches into the very essence of the order, and in the very essence of the neshama. So that's what basically we're holding on Omid Shin Samah. As I remember, and we're going to finish off this Maimah, and then we'll decide what to do further. So therefore says the Rebbe V'chol Zeh, and all of this, that's referring to all of the inyonim that we described in the Eved Pashut, Mikoyach Atzmei Davka. But this is all achieved by the Eved Pashut himself. In other words, it's all his own doing, as you might call it. Mikoyach atzmei davka. She'ein lo siyuya al zeh mi'agilui oiros benafshei ukahai gavna. Ki im asher ba'atzmei kibul alav oil malchus yizborach v'nosan u'mosar es atzmei lavidose yizborach. Ve'efen hanasino hu bebitul kol atzmusei. She'ein lo mohus u'matzias le'atzmei klal. And the manner of the giving of himself is in the form of a bittul cancellation of his whole essence, his whole being. She'ein lo mohus u'matzias le'atzmei klal. He doesn't have anything left over for himself, not his whole essence, or anything to do with his being as an existing entity for himself at all. Ki im ze kol mohusei laved. Where are we? Kim mashe be'atzmei kibul alav malchus yizborach v'nosan u'mosar es atzmei lavidose yizborach. And he took upon himself to give himself, and to mosar means to completely give yourself over. Masira in the Gemara is where you take a thing and give it into another reshus. That's called in Yiddish opgeben. That means you completely take it from your reshus into another reshus. He's given himself and he's put away his whole entity into another reshus. Mosa esatz me lavidose yizborach. Ve'oifan hanasino hu bebitul kol atzmusei. And the manner of that nasina is with complete cancellation of his whole self. She'ein lo mohus u'matzias le'atzmei klal. Ki im ze kol mohusei laved l'tzerech adonai aden kol yizborach. His whole inyan is only to do that which is the necessity of the Odein HaKoel, meaning the Eibishter. Kol ma shemutal alav mi'ita yizborach la'aseis u'l'kayim. and that oifen of the Nesina has literally got no conditions in it. There's no limitations. There's no hagbolas, as you might call it. There's no a point where we say up to here and no further, but it's in the oifen of kol mashemutal olav mi itoi, anything that the Eibishter will place upon him. Mi itoi meaning from the Eibishter, blessed be he, la seis l'kayim, to do and to and l'kayim. What la seis l'kayim means basically the same thing. What's going on is the word l'kayim has got itself two inyanim. It means not only to do, but it means to be continuous in your doing. L'kayim means that there's a kiyut to what you do, meaning that he takes upon himself that whatever he does for the Eibishter will not only be now done, but it'll be a permanent, what you might call, commitment. La seis ulakayo, mikan ula haba, without any limitation. Cloud. So here we see, and we have to say that that's moving from what we've learned up to now in the Inyan of the Eved Pasha. That since ultimately, if you were to really ask him, mitzad the Giluim Shebenevish, mitzad afilu Rotoinoi, Rotzen is also a koyach Shebenevish, but it's a koyach Makifi, a koyach Hatzmi in the Nefesh. If you were to ask him, what would you really want to be doing this? Is this what you as an entity really want to do? He would say no, or he would say not necessarily. Which means that when he does do it, and he does with the most ultimate perfection, then we have to say that at every point and every prat along the line, it's only being done not because of him. He's doing it mitzad the Rotzen, which means that at every moment, if you measure why is this particular act being carried out on his part, it's only mitzad the Rotzen of the Eibishter. Which means that at every second in what he's doing is meir the Rotzen of the Odein Koil, what that means, the Eibishter, in the form of a Odein, in the form of a Balabas, that he has absolutely no question whatsoever about the Etzem Avodah. At every step of his Avodah, it's only being done mitzad the Odein, mitzad the Rotzen Ha'atzmi of the Odein, which means that he's devoted even deeper than his own will. But that's the most profound devotion that we can imagine. A man is devoted in a way that there's no shilas or nothing is asked in him. I feel, well, what do you want? What is it that interests you? Or what do you find rewarding? That's not the klal of the shaila. The shaila is, what does the balabas want? What does the balabas want? What does the Odein Koil? Mahu rotzeh? Say kol mashe oile l'shaila etzlo. By him, there's no other shailas whatsoever. Well, that means that at every moment there's like two things happening. The most amazing struggle that he's given himself away completely, and yet at that moment is meir only the Rotzen of the Odein, nothing else. What actually happens, Berega Ahu, is only the Rotzen of the Odein. Why? Because he doesn't have anything for it himself, which means that his whole Matthias is not here. He doesn't have any Matthias, B'tei Hador, Klau. And that's what we're going to see as we go along. He becomes almost like a describable as an Aver of the Odein. I think in the Eved Ne'eman, a guy's got a tremendous knowledge and koch and in Yiddishkeit, the Brent and a koch that he wants to do everything. If you ask him, what would you really want to be doing? He would say, only this. He has nothing else in life, Klau. Well, that's a tremendous achievement. Nobody's belittling it. And it's a tremendous gishmak. And in order to have that gishmak, you've got to give away all the other gishmaks in life. This is movement. He has to give away all other retainers and all other tanugim in order to have that taina. of a so he is a motivated individual. He's got all sorts of inyanim which are pouring him into it the whole time, which he's being mazik and that's flaming the motivation to go further and further. And so his concern also is with the how do you call it, the household kaviochel of the other. That's his only concern. Over this, he and the other, and it's his concern and the other. On the other's concern. The Eved Pashut is not like that. He doesn't have anything in the whole game. Therefore, when he's there, it's only the will of the other, and he's not really there. We're all in touch of. It's only the will of the other. And remember, the fact that he does it, means that he does it only mitzvah the other. And therefore, that's what the Rebbe means, that he's taken himself. B'chol Metziusay, in a form of Nasina, but that cancels his whole very being. It's a bitul kol atzmusay. It's a cancellation of his whole being. Ulazois, and therefore, due to that fact, however dazeh, or this Eved Pashut, b'tiv avidosei, harihu matzliach gam kein ladeinoi. Laham shitesivus brocha b'chol hein beisa. V'yadarabba, mamshich tesivus naila ba'ein arich lam shochas ha'eved anerma. In the earlier drushim in Pasha Achrei, Pasha Riyeh, Achrei Avay Alachem Telechu, and in the drush Eila Hadvarim, the Rebbe is masber over there that the Eved Naaman, due to his devotion and due to his knowledge, then he can be compared lamata to an Eved, what he does very, very important malachas and very important tasks in the household of the Odin, what they're nageya to the, what you might call the panosa and the oisha, and the richness of the development of the Odin's nechosim, how do you call it, nechosim, his properties and his ownership. That since he knows all of the inyanim of his tausas, if we take it in Pnimisai, he's like somebody who knows all the dinim of the business and all the ways to deal with things that the Odin places in his hands, certain inyanim, and he literally invests them, as you might say. He does with them all sorts of elevated and profitable inyanim, what they bring a feedback into the household of the Odin in a way that there's what you call a continuous addition into the household of the Odin, but that causes the Odin a great deal of satisfaction. It causes the master of the house a great deal of satisfaction. The diuk is that the master, he doesn't put anything into that himself. He just sits back, and the Eved Naaman does it all. The Eved Naaman does it all for him. And to a certain extent, these inyanim, what the Eved Naaman receives, are also inyanim which they've been there. I mean, they're all there in the Seder Hishtaushulus. Ein behem chidush mitzad atzmon. They're all just different oifanim and elokus, different inyanim in knowledge of elokus v'chulu. And I feel what he does when he's mekayim mitzvahs, all those things what the Eibush are meant to be nimshach alidei mitzvahs. Just that since it's in a oifen from ribui, and so of course it's connected with the inyan for rotzen Hashem in the kiyum atera mitzvahs. There's a certain what we call profit in all the kaviyot. The Eibush's will is carried out, and to a certain extent to say what you might call a toisefes gila elikus alitea odom, that's a tremendous, what you might call a step forward in the, but it's not ultimately the inyan from dira b'tatoin. First of all, because this person, he's busy with dvarim nailim and pnimim v'atzmiyim, and his whole Aveda began at a certain point where he's no longer really shayat to tachtoinim. He's no longer really nimtza b'toich inyan atachtoin. No, he's mufshat me'inyan atachtoin. And even though he does the mitzvahs in gashmiyas, like everybody has to, otherwise it's not a mitzvah, Be'ika he's concerned with the kavanah of the mitzvah and din and how it is, and what he's being megala or mamshik for the order and holiday mitzvahs. And therefore, even though there's a prophet in the house of the order, and a tremendous prophet, nonetheless it's to use the expression in Chassidus, it's a Giluyim type of prophet. It's in only what they have to do with the revelation. And the Odin's Nachashur, and that is a satisfaction. But it's like if we can imagine that you have very devoted servants or people that they look after your Inyonim, and you just sit back and see that the Inyonim come in, then you have from that a tremendous satisfaction. But there's always a certain lacking in that. It's not really the Odin's Pu'ula. He didn't do anything in that. It was all just brought for him, what you might call it min hamucha. So we're going to see that even by Odin, what you can find, well, Odin, as I mentioned, he doesn't want to do anything anyway. That's why he's a Odin. Otherwise, if he wanted to be Davki Misasik in the he wouldn't be a Odin. He would be a worker, or it'd be what they call one of the boys, one of the guys, etc. And the fact that he's a Odin is of a so. There's an Indian in every being, Kavioho. There's a Indian to be involved in a way that you see Kavioho Ma'aseh Yodelcha. You might say, well, that's not shot by the Eivshter Ma'aseh Yodelcha. Oh, yes, it is. And that's what we see, that the two psukim. There's one pasuk that said, Yismach Yisrael B'Oishav, that the Eden, they're happy with their maker, they have simcha in their maker. And then there's another pasuk which says Yismach Havaya B'Ma'asov, that the Eivshter has simcha in his Kavioch, in his action. In other words, that there's an Indian that Kavioch, the Eivshter also, he has a simcha davkim in what he did, Kavioch. What's that kimat? Yes, Yismach Havaya B'Ma'asov. And that Indian that there's a simcha mamish in his own action, Kavioch, well, that's not perfected by the Eved Ne'eman, because the Eved Ne'eman brings everything into the order in the form of profit from things which were already there, in other words, that the order just sits back and he sees that brought in, as it were. So ultimately there must be a certain pagam in the tainas of the order, and that's what we're going to see, that even Odin, Sokosof, he also needs, for Shleimusa, he needs to have a certain tainug in things that he did, that's kilu in Yonehu. And the Eved Ne'eman saves him all the way. And the Eved Ne'eman brings him all the unbelievable profit of a Sokosof. There's a very delicate chisaron be'inyan zeh. So that's what we're now going to see, that this Eved Ne'eman, he doubtless brings into the household a great deal of profit. But the Eved Pashut, by devoting himself absolutely beyond anything of his own, and without really concerning himself what happens through what he does, only that he does the rotzen of the Odin, he also causes a profit in the Odin. But we're going to see the question is that what happens with the profits that he causes, because of his bittul kol mahusay to the Odin, then the Odin sees that kilo as he did it. It's kilo like he's so much part of the Odin that it's almost that the Odin is able to identify his having achieved certain things with the achievement of the Eved Posher. And that's what he says now. That the Eved Azeh, meaning the Eved Posher, through the benefit of his Aveda, he also brings Hatzlacha. El Hamshik Teisvus Brocha, to bring extra blessing, B'chol Hain Beise, and all the ownership of his household. For Adarabah, and more than that, on the contrary, he brings down a additional elevated oil ba'ein aroich la'am shochas ha'eved ha'ne'eman. He's ein aroich and he's all elevated to the Eved Ne'eman. And Yet nonetheless we say that the bracha he brings into the household of the Odin is ein aroich legabi what the Eved Naaman brings. So what's the pshat? How can that possibly be? I mean, he deals with simple inyanim also compared to the Eved Naaman. The Eved Naaman deals with very high inyanim, with what you might call the Wall Street of the Odin. He deals with all the difficult inyanim which the Odin doesn't busy himself with that lachir of the cloud. Was it the pshat that al yidei his aveda he brings oyer teisvus into the household or to the inyan of the Odin, ein aroich to the amshocha of the Eved Naaman. Ve'ika ha'hefer shu. So the Ika Sfora and the Ika difference in that is the Kol Amshochas B'Teisvus Eirish Eved Naaman Mamshich HaKol Hu B'chinas HaGiluim Levad the B'Sher Shel Shon Hu B'chinas HaYerein Seif Shebo B'chin Amshocha V'Gilu Aval Ma She'Ha'eved HaPoshut Matzliach B'Beis Adonai Hu She'Mamshich Mib'chinas Atzmus Mami שעל יודי נשלמה הכוונה האמיתיס דנסבה הקדוש ברוך הוא ליש לוי לעצמוסו יזברך דירה בתחתונים. In other words, at the Eved Naaman, he's megala tremendous inyanim, but he doesn't reach the ultimate quetch, as you might call it, the ultimate shleimus and the ultimate nekuda Atzmius Adarotzen Shalamayla. And he's Megala all sorts of oilers, and we'll see as we go along. Maybe we suggest it's the union of Amshocha Seiras in Oilam Asalyonim, for example, Gilui Oilas Nailim in Oilam Atzilas, and those oilers are Mislavish in the Kalim, and I feel in Oilam Asalyonim which are nearer to Oilam Azer than Oilam Atzilas. Of a sokos of it's a gili of oiros which are shayak somehow to kalim, they're shayak to what we call Seder Hishtalshalas. Obviously this Eved Poshut, then he's mamshich from a level which is completely beyond oiros which are shayak to kalim, or shayak to inyone Hishtalshalas. No, there the inyan from Atzmus Mami, Atzmus is Barak, and he brings that down lamata into the Olam Aki Tachtoy. That's the union of Nishlama Hakavona Ha'amitiyah. Now all things that have got to do with Gilei Elakus Hakavona, they're all with the purpose and they're all part of the Eibishter's plan. But the Kavona Amitiyah is the ultimate Kavona. And the Emerson Kavona is Nisave HaKadosh Baruch Hu liyos loyli atzmusa yizbarach dira betach toinim. Well, it's one on the famous diuk is there that when we say dira betach toinim, then the inyan for that dira is where a mensch biatzmusa finds himself. If we take in the mashal, that a dira is an area where the mensch goes biatzmusa. And on the contrary, that's where he finds himself with all what you might call the pshitas of his atzmas and the simplicity of his atzmas. That when he's dafki in his household, that's when he does all of his private inyanim, all those inyanim which shaykh le'atzmusay. And afar, dira b'taktoini means, the Eibishter mamish k'moshuhu, that he should be found in the Elam HaTachtoin. With the other pshat in Dira, is that's a place where you can be with all your atzmus, where you do able to reveal itself with your atzmus. That's a mokim haraui lecha. It's fit and proper for you, and it's able to contain you. That's it. Those two nakudas. One, that the atzmus of the door is there, and half of that because it's a mokim haraui loy. That comes about to the weight of this Eved Poshut. He brings the ultimate shleimus of the inyan from Dira B'Taktoy. And that's the inyan from Nisave HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Amitius HaTaiva, liyos loyli atzmusi yizbarach Dira B'Taktoy, and it's well known. The other diuk is there, that Nisave is a Taiva. And as well known, the famous lina we saw right at the beginning of the Hemshech, where the Rebbe brought the lesson of the Alter Rebbe, of a taiva is kein kashia, that you can't ask any questions of a taiva. Somebody has a taiva, that's how do you call it, which is part of his being that he himself can't explain. A taiva. The inyan von dira, but tateinim is a inyan atzmi rotzen shaloi al pitam vadas klal. It's like moving along of klal, pitam vadas. Why the Eibusha wanted that? Now that's a inyan von nisave. It's a taiva kaviyochem mitzad the yamitis atzmas. Now I mean the Eved Poshet can reach all of those three nekudas, as you might call them. It's mitzad the very taiva atzmis of the Eibusha. And it's tafki lamata, but tatoinim, and it's tafki, even that those tatoinim are ru'uyim li'atzmusay. Well, that's through somebody that kol inyone is devoted to the atzmus. Either he doesn't have any kavanas. A tafki alidei zeh, he reaches the atzmus. Mamishav that the atzmus is but dira b'tatoinim. Well, I mean, it's a pilidike inyan. It's ultimately the big lights man, what he's the Eved Neman, he doesn't actually make the dira b'tatoid. So you might say, well, what does he make him? What? Ma tzoyret b'avidosei. Well, that's what we see, that there's a necessity on the way down for all sorts of oiroids, because they, as it were, light up and make the way, and they bring about all sorts of hamshochas, which later make the dira b'tatoid even more, what you might call ornamented and even more beautiful. That's toisefes in the inyan from the dira v'tatonim. But first of all, their inyan is to be nimshach b'inyonim l'mayla mi'adira. And it's later, dafke alidei, the fact that the Eved Poshet, he established the whole inyan of the dira lamata, then those inyonim are nimshachim. And nimtza that they're only inyonim bein atzmas li'adira, and they're like the inyonim Chashuvim over there, Emchoyim, they're like in the middle. They're like things which are only there to make things better and more, what you might call more beautiful, more decorated. Like each of us there. But that's an establishment of the dira, that's the Eved Poshet. Velule Avidose, at the Eved Poshet, it wouldn't really have an ultimate time, the Aveda of the Eved Nema. If he said that the Eved Poshet, he's the Yesod HaKol. And therefore it's written in the Mishnah, like we said, that the basic Hoiroah from the Tanoim, Harushanim, was that you have to be a Eved, number one, and zweitens is you have to be Shalei Almanas Lekavul Pras. But that's and as we were Mavaya, it's brought down over there in the Bartanur and the place of the Yontif. Another great Mefoshim in the Mishnah, that there were certain people who couldn't be Mekabel. They says, what's up to serve without any ultimate reward? What? Vikon does that. The Eibusha is as if it doesn't function that way. And there was, until even some of the Beitusim and the others, that they were Berigas with that Maimah of the Mishnah. And they said, how you talking? There should be Eved Shalei Almanah Shalei Lekavul Pras. There's even more. But there was some who said that the pshat is you have to be Eved Almanah Shalei Lekavul. It should be, the condition should be not to be Mekavul Klal. Some of the authorities, Ba'isha Asman, they said that that's L'mayla. That's overdone. We come in China and it's all in. And that's the far. Well, the Eved Poshet is a tremendously elevated union between Pnimis Advorim. That a man should not know and not even care, heck, what it is that he has for a union, only the rotzen of the other. That makes the deal of a taktik. That's an akudah. Atzmi is what brings to the union from the dira lamata. And all the other inyonim are like what you might call icing on the cake. The all inyonim, which inyonim is liyafis, or the hamshik inyonim yofim beteich etzem adira. I mean, that's the ultimate, what you might call, fetch.
In order to to the level of Eved Pashut, you have to first go through being Eved
No,
Naaman?
not necessarily. Because it would appear that the Eved Pashut is not somebody that he was an Eved Naaman and then he decided to be an Eved Pashut. You follow? Because that's Amnam Ulai Yesh Kele Anoshim, that they went through the whole Indian of an Eved Naaman and then they decided that really they had to go to be Mishtadl, to be Avodim Pshutim. That's one on the famous Maim from Rabbi Paricha, when he was a Goan Otzim. Bein Benigla, Bein Besidus, Bein Benigla, and Bein Kabbalah, Chassidus. And he's one of the few Chassidim that ever said Maimonim of their own, with the ganze Arichas Advarim, Rabbi Paricha. So he was once asked, what is his whole ambition? What does he see? Because Avidose, and he flew, that he said his whole aim is to become an Ish Pashut. I think I've told you guys tonight. He said that the ganze Tatas von seinem ganzen Aveda is that he should become a Ish Pashut. And so doubtless he achieved it. I mean, Yesh Lema, that at one point or another he was much clear for that. So that's a very rare case of somebody who was an Eved Naaman and eventually decided that he has to give it away and become an Eved Pashut. But with the Eved Pashut, he's not someone who's been through the Eved Naaman and he's dropped it off, he's come back to an Eved Pashut. He's Mulachatchila, as a Yid with his whole in, and it's just absolute devotion. I believe he holds that the Eved Pashut is kilo of the what you might call the opinion, if we can put it that way, if it's hard to say he has opinion. He's kilo of the impression that to go looking for inyanim, even giluim, nailim, in the mitzvahs, doesn't mulchatchila not your in, that's not his in, he knows that the whole in of the mitzvah is kabbalas, oil, rotten, matave. There was the Rebbe now, a very fascinating chiddush. So now says the Rebbe Lafisek that his whole Indian and the Ikya achievement of Nisave HaKadosh Baruch Hu Liyos Le'Dira Le'Atzmusei B'Taktoi Nemesuri Evet Pashut ובזה יובן גם כן מה שנסבור ליל דיבר מסחר אלה הדברים. במשל דאבידס העבד הפשוט הרי זה כמו שהעודן בעצמי עובד ליש הרי זה כמו שהעודן בעצמי עובד ליש כל מהוסי הוא רק לעבד לאדוני והרי הוא כרכושי וקניין כספי אם כן מה שהוא עובד הרי זה אצל העודן כאילו הוא בעצמי עובד ומרוויח על ידי שוירוי וכהי גבנה. So the Rebbe says, like we pointed out, we now go over to the Odin for a moment. We move our beam to the Odin. And the Odin is also, Sof Kosof, what's his part in the whole Inyan? Apart from the nachasut that he has, that he's gained some sort of revach and parnasa and bracha bebeisai. So the Rebbe said he also, as it were, Kaviyachol, also needs to feel that he's done something, Kaviyachol. So how is that achieved? That the bittul of the Eved Pashut is so immense. And so, without any place for himself, that if we take it in the Moshel, and then we'll go to the Nimshal, that the Odain sees that as if he had done it himself. In other words, that since the bittul of the Eved Pashut is so complete to him, and he does it only for his sake and not having any Indian in the activity of the matter himself, then he becomes like the shoyer of the other. He becomes like an inanimate thing. I mean, a shoyer is not completely inanimate. A shoyer is an ox. You're not completely inanimate, or upon him, you're going to get to the activity of the human in certain things that he uses, the shoyer, then the shoyer is just like a tool that carries out. the Indian as well known, the famous Maimah of the Gemara, that Rabbi Yezer said, "Le'elam loy korasi le'shoiri shoiri, ela korasi le'shoiri sodi." He said, I never called my shoyer a shoyer, I called it my field. In other words, that the whole Indian of the shoyer is only to be bottled to make him a field. Of the shoyer alone, the nishkamatzir cloud. I mean, the shoyer is only like a harika. And it's brought down over there a few such statements in the Gemara. And there's another one over there where one of the Tanoim said that Le'elam loy karezi le'ishti ishti el karezi le'ishti beisi. He never called his wife, he called her his house. The whole Indian of the Isha, the whole Indian is only to make the house. The whole Indian, it should be the Indian from Bais, the cloud, the farm. It's interesting, certain of the greatest Polish never referred to their wives as they used to call it the shtu, to call their wives the house. Yeah, I've heard it. By the Polish, the Gute Yidden, the Polish, how they call it, the Rebbe, by the Polish, they don't say their wife, they say the shtu, the house. That's based on that Maimah Chazal. That the Isha is the house, the household. The same with the Indian, I'm not comparing them necessarily, the same with the Indian of the shoyer. The Indian of the shoyer is the field, not the shoyer, but the field. And therefore, that's what the Rebbe says here, that so great is the beetle of the Eved Poshet to the Odain, that the Odain doesn't really see him as he sees it, he's doing it, it's his Indian. And the Eved Poshet is like a shoyer or another inanimate, what you might call object, that's carried out the Iker Tachlis, which is the Sodeh, and the what you might call the Revach that comes alidei the Sodeh. It follows the feature that there's another amazing achievement on the part of the Eved Ne'eman, that he is mitzad the tremendous beetle that he has to the Odain, that and he's just like the Rechush, he's like how they call it, part of the ownership, and he's like the Kinyan Kaspe, how they call it, he's like a purchased article of the Odain. The Mashu Eved Harizeh Eitzel HaOdain Ki'ilu Hu Bi'atzmei Eved Umarviach Alidei Shoyroi U'Kai Gavne. It's like as if he himself were working in the field through the shoyer, and he were bringing the revach which occurs here through this Eved. Then the Odin sees that that's his own, as it were, action, his own achievement. Harizeh, but Marvir Alidei Shoyer V'zoish Yerav El Odin Ma'id, and that is very sweet or very tasteful to the Odin. We said that the Eved Ne'eman, he does everything for the Odin, which things are already there. He takes all the geld and all the good things, and he makes them even more powerful, and more expensive, and more beautiful, and more so on and so on than they were. Yeah, so therefore the Odin sees all that as dvarim min hamuchen. That's all, Rebbe of when the Eved Poshet achieves something, then he sees that kilo. The Odin identifies with that as if it were his own action, as it were. That causes him a very special type of tainuk, and therefore he uses the expression Yerav Loi Ma'id. So we take another step forward now, that the beetle of the Eved Poshet is so great that he becomes the action of the master. L'maynaf kimina Lamaila in the Nimshal. That's the question now. In the Moshel, we understand it's a very powerful step forward in the Moshel, a very amazing Ilui in the whole concept of the Moshel. But what can that be Lamaila? How's it tried to say that the Eivshter Kilo as a sees in the act of a Yid Kilo that he did it? I mean, my nafkamina bezel, what's the Indian bezel Lamaila? So says the Rebbe V'yesh Leima the Benimshal. Because immediately the mind of the intelligent reader wants to know how does this work in the Nimshal, in the Moshel. It's understandable. Yesh lema de benimshal, in the compared thing that we're comparing it to, hu inin mashukosu laman tizkuru va'asisem es kol mitzvah soy. In other words, if you look in Parshas Tzitzis, what Parshas Tzitzis connected kol ha-mitzvahs, as well known, that even from the Tzitzis, even in B'misparim, Rashi brings out the word Tzitzis. Yes, 200 and 600 and so forth. And then the Shmoyne Kisharim is 600 of it. Yeah, 600. And then the eight Chutim and the 5 Kisharim makes 13. Because even in the word Tzitzis is a reference to the whole Sheish. Sheish Me'ez V'Shleishis Mitzvahs. And the whole Indian from Parashat Tzitzis is concerned with the Indian of Kol HaMitzvahs Kulam. So you notice at the beginning, he says you have to see the mitzvahs and through them remember as Kol Mitzvahs Hashem, Mitzvahs Havaya. V'asisa b'yitzom, etc., etc., etc. Then at the end, he says, Laman tizkuru, you should remember, asismas Kol Mitzvah Soy. V'yisem kedoshim lele. If you look in the Siddur, you'll see that's what's written. He begins with that the mitzvahs the tzitzis are an arousal and a remembrance of Kol Mitzvahs Hashem, and then he finishes by saying that through that Indian of the remembrance of the mitzvahs, the pula and the mitzvahs, how they are mitzvah the tzitzis, you come to a Indian mitzvah soy, my mitzvah, not mitzvahs Hashem, but they're my mitzvah. We have to suggest that Kaviyachol, the Eibishter Biatzmusai, is talking on two levels within that passage of Tzitzit. And on the one hand he says that there's Kol Mitzvahs Havaya, in other words there are mitzvahs where Nimshuk Mitzad Shmi, Mitzad the Inim for name, which is Shem Havaya, and there are mitzvahs how they come down and they're Nimshuk, a Miskale, through the oasis of Shmi, and through the union of what Shmi is. And they're called mitzvahs Shmi, mitzvahs Hashem. And then there's a union of Alidei, the perfection, and coming to the Nakuda Pinimis. In that union you arrive at Kol Mitzvah Soy, the mitzvahs Harayah Mamish, my mitzvah. So look at my Hevdo Ben Zelazeh. So that's what the Rebbe is going to say. That the union of the Eved Ne'eman, and those who are into it mitzad the Giluyim, and those who are into it mitzad appreciation, etc., etc., that they reach the mitzvahs, how the Mishkala, Alidei Madregas Lamaila, but those Madregas are connected with the oasis of the Shem Havaya, the oasis of the Eibishter's name. And they have be'ikah to do with the kavanas of the mitzvahs. The people who are oisik in kavanas and in hoiche inyonim and keeping the mitzvahs. Be'ilu mitzvah soy, the mitzvahs are mamish mushush in the atzmus, because the union of the Shem Havaya is only Hashem. That's only a gilui in Seder, a giluyim of the mitzvahs. Over the mitzvahs are mamish mitzad atzmusay, I call my mitzvahs kavion. Mitzvah soy. Oh, he said the only way you can get to that is just to be a poshut of Eved. And Eved poshut, on the day which you do pure in mitzad Kabbalah self, then you reach the way he has the mitzvahs mamish biatzmusay mamish. That's the union of the Eved poshut. He reaches the mitzvah, Harayah mitzvah soy. ואם כן, ויש להם מדמנים שם, והוא הנה מה שכוסף למען תזכו הציסם, אז כל מצווה סוי. הנה יש מצווה הוויה או מצווה סוי. The two levels, the mitzvahs are called mitzvahs Hashem and my mitzvah. פירש מצווה הוויה, היינו המצווה כמו שהן בסדר ישתאו שלו. The other way they come into now when we're talking here about Sayyid Ishtal, we don't mean in the lower Madrigas, we mean how they are, B'Sherish of the Shem Havaya, which is in Olam HaAtzilus, Afil Olam Ha'olam HaAtzilus. Of it's already the Indian from the Eiros after the Tzimtzum, and after the Gilu of Akar, they already shot to the Seder, of the Giluim in Ishtal Shalis, Eiros O'Elyoinim. וכידוע דכל המצוות תלויים בדלת oisius shemavaya. That's well known that all the mitzvahs are somehow or another tluim, they depend on, they're hanging literally in the arba oisius of the shemavaya. Like it's brought down in the Zohar Kodesh. The Zohar Kodesh says that all the mitzvahs literally hang on the arba oisius. The shemavaya, like grapes hang in clusters. In other words, that each os has got clusters of mitzvahs that hang onto it, and they all got indirectly or directly, they go to that particular os in the shemavaya, and then others go to the K, and others go to the Vav, and others go to the K Taptoina, and here we bring a very famous example which you guys are all familiar with. So he says shemavaya u'kamoi kriya shma b'ois yud the shemavaya, or tefillin b'ois K, the K Elyoina, yishayta the inyan from tefillin ukahai gavna, and similar to the. Now why I said that you guys are all familiar with it, I don't know if you guys all get that far when you're saying Christmas Shalamita, but you know in Christmas Shalamita, lefi the nusach of the Alter Rebbe, you got what's called the Abba Mises, after. So it could be you guys say, well, that's up to by the time we get that far, we're already dropping off our feet, but there's a whole in the four, you've seen the whole four Mises there, in the Christmas. In the up-to-date Siddurim, it's all printed. There's a whole sort of funny old thing that happened when the original Tehillas Hashem, it's not the Lubavitcher Siddur. The original Siddur Tehillas Hashem wasn't printed by Lubavitcher. It's the original Siddur, the Alter Rebbe Siddur, the Siddur Tehillas Mikol Hashem. And then there were other Siddurim which were called, later it was called the Siddur Torah Oyer, that was printed early in the years of the Rashab. And those are the original Lubavitcher Siddurim. But in the time of the war, there was never when certain kutzes of Lubavitch Chassidim, and I didn't have any Siddurim. There was a Yid that he printed, I think it was even a Polish Yid. He printed up a thing and he called Siddur Tehillas Hashem Al Pi Nusach Harizah. And that he meant Al Pi Nusach Harizah from Chabad. When he saw the Christmas Shechamid, he couldn't figure what notice. So he was in the opinion that somebody must have put in there things off Kabbalah or something. So he took most of the Christmas Shechamid and printed it at the back. You ever seen the real early Tehillas Hashems? All the pieces that to do with the Ava Mises and the the Al Chayit and other, they're all printed at the back at the Siddur. It was really hard to find them because he didn't really. He was an Elchayim, a finer Yid, but he didn't realize that he thought that there wasn't child to the ordinary Seder, the Christmas. Because in other Siddurim it doesn't appear in the club. So he put it all over at the back. Now for years it was left like that. They printed some really nice Siddur Tehillas and it was still at the back. So there was it sort of occurred somewhere along the line that I think the Rebbe might have even said something about it at one stage. That if you're already printing and you sit and tell us Hashem to make the Seder right, put all those things that were stooped over to the back, put them in the right place. There were several other Inyanim, but he did the same. He put them over the back.
Anyway, someone told me that one is during the Tehillas Hashem that Friedrich laid out the printing for. Is that true?
Yeah, there's a Siddur Torah. The Friedrich Rabbi, as far as I know, he didn't lay out the Siddur Tehillas Hashem. That's a Siddur Torah. That was the Rebbe Rashab. So if you look up in the Siddur Torah, then of course the Christmas Shalom carries everything on it. It's funny over there in the Daled Mizi, it's written over there the Kabbalah, supposed to be Kabbalah on yourself, the Daled Mizi's Bezdin, You guys are maybe not familiar with the whole, that itself requires the whole Hezbollah, the whole Inim. So it's written over there that you have to say that on Kabbalah. I take on myself that if I was poigim, be'eis in the eis Yud al Yidei, if I was poigim in the Yudah, the Eibishter's name, al Yidei bittul kriyashma. I was mevatl kriyashma. And then the whole thing about this and this. We're not getting involved in all the details over there. It's we see that the inyan from Kriyat Shema is totally in the Yud of the Shem Havaya. And why and what, that's a whole big beer. There's really an amazing beer of all these aces of the Shem Havaya and how these different mitzvahs are shayat to the from the Friedrich Rebbe Turkey in the year Toshin Zion. It's the a Maimon, I think it's from Sukkot or from Shmini Atzeres from Chol HaMoed. A Maimon that he's masbid of all the protei inyanim of the different things which are mentioned over there in that whole nusach of there. And how the inyan from Krishma shayat the Yud from the Shem Havaya and Tefillin, he brings this oiskei. Then you go down and you say, "Aram Kabbalah him pagamti be oiskei Roshina shel Shem Havaya bebitl tefillin and this and this." And you go further, then you get into the Shem Adne, and you guys are not familiar with all of them. Well, maybe you are, but you're a little bit not child what you really what you're being oisik, you know. Yeah. That's the inyan of the Kabbalah Sava Mises B'Shas Krishma. So we see clearly over there that certain mitzvahs are connected with certain oisis in the Shema, certain oisis in the Shema Havaya, and that Rahman in Yitzlan, you can be poigim, you can be poigim in those inyanim. Alidei bittul mitzvahs Kriyat Shema, or bittul mitzvahs Tefillin, or bittul mitzvahs Tefillah, and then later he brings in for tzitzit. So everybody says, "What? I'm bittul mitzvahs Krishma. Well, I don't read Krishma. I'm a fatal the mitzvah for Krishma all the time." Or bittul mitzvahs Tefillah. I mentioned put on Tefillah. Or but he didn't daven there mitzvahs Tefillah. He daven to tell us. What do you mean that you're battle? So that's the Friedrich Rebbe. The Friedrich Rebbe goes away. It's amazing hemshel he's got over there. It's based on a keter from the Rebbe Rashab, but it's more, so he opens it out into more detail, the Friedrich Rebbe. And he deals over there and he says, "Hey, you can tell her read Krishma and everything, but you were battle Krishma. You weren't really into the Krishma the way it's meant to be." That's called bittul. But he said it doesn't mean that the person was Mavatal Krishma in the simple sense. What it means was that he wasn't into the Aveda from Krishma the way it's meant to be. And the whole tshuva of Krishma Shalomita is big on the Aveda and on the proper approach to the mitzvahs, not their actual doing them or otherwise. Kamura. I want to say Kamura. L'chera. That's the way it comes out. If you look up over there, you'll see that it's written Krishma Bo'ish Yud and Tefillin Bo'ish Kei or Kahai Gavna B'Kol HaMitzvah. And like it is, and therefore the Zohar Kodesh says that the other mitzvahs hang on like grapes. In other words, that Krishma is a mitzvah kloliyas, Tefillin is a mitzvah kloliyas, Tefillah is another mitzvah kloliyas. And the Alter Rebbe must be in Pasha Bolach, in Pasha Lo'yibit, in the Maimar Lo'yibit of in Biyankiv, over there the Rebbe's must be the whole inyan of how tefillah is really only, according to most poskim, it's only a mitzvah d'Rabbanan, and yet nonetheless it's mentioned as one of the mitzvahs kloliyos. Well, all those mitzvahs are mitzvahs kloliyos. They're all general mitzvahs. Other mitzvahs come out of those mitzvahs kloliyos. What can you do with it? The Gemara says, "Huksha kol ha'Torah kula litfilin." The whole Torah is compared to the tefillin. So all the mitzvahs are somehow or another linked with tefillin and Krishma. And they write that that's how all the other mitzvahs develop out of these main mitzvahs, and they're all like grapes. But they hang on in the clusters, the oasis, v'chulu. So he said all of that is the inyan for mitzvahs Havaya. And that's all in the oiras which are shayat to kelim. And we'll see more about that as we go. The inyan for mitzvah Isoi, that's the mitzvahs how they are in the atzmas, not how they're shayat to any inyan for Giluim, not a shayat to any matreige in the Shtaushelet, not Yud and not Kei, and they're all mamish including in the atzmas.
Oh, can I ask a question? You said previously that specifically the Eved Pasha that makes a deal with Tachtanim, and not the Eved Neiman. So as we understand, that the Mashiach told Baal Shem Tov that he should spread his well springs to everybody. Seemingly what we learn now is his well springs. So it seems from what we learn, we want to have these kavanas and everything else. So we learn how to be an Eved Ne'eman, but that's not what we should be doing. We want to make a David Tachtanim. So why is it that we just not state Shutim and
That's a very, very good question. That's a very good question. And I must admit that we really, to answer that question, we should have a bit of mashke. There should be a bit of a tziddish fabringa, and then we'd be able to answer that question. And if I had koyach, it would be good. Unfortunately, I don't. But just very briefly, I mean, just one that could, it gets back to the question that Yoram asked in the middle of this year. That, maybe we're supposed to be Eved Ne'emanim and then go back to Avodim Shut. So I said that, in generally speaking, I didn't want to go for that. But the truth of the matter is that there is a certain aspect of that in Tomchei Tmimah. And there we find that the whole inyan in Tomchei Tmimah was to show us all the pnimis of the Torah, and yet you got these different Maimorim from the Rebbeim, particularly from the Rebbe Rashab. He's as you might say, a very central point in this whole doctrine, where he says when you do the mitzvah, you got to do just with poshet and absolutely. So if you look in Ayin Beis, there's a whole piece in Ayin Beis, very amazing piece. But it's mashma over there that in order for you to be able to do the mitzvahs mamish, you've got to first of all know something about the pnimiyas, and you've got to be a bit of an Eved Ne'eman. And then if you have a little bit of a shmek tabik of the Eved Ne'eman, then you're able to realize what it means to be an Eved Poshet. And then you're able to do the Eved in the Eved Poshet better. But if you don't have any knowledge, then you're just an Eved Poshet. And that's not bad. I don't say that's not bad. But that's not what the Rebbe wanted, and that's not what the Baal Shem Tov wanted. He wanted that we should be Avodim Shutim with a certain time. Now if you look in the Kuntres Eit Chaim, famous thing that the Rebbe Rashab gave out, and you see that the Rebbe Rashab says over there clearly, he says that Kriyishma is Yehudi Loah, and Baruch Shem is Yehudi Tatorah. Come over in Shara Yehud. And he says that even if Kriyishma is Yehudi Loah, it's only shot to certain Amitis, it's only shot to certain high Nishon. What are we all doing reading Kriyishma? What are we learning about something that's not really shy to? So he said, in order for you to keep Krishma, you're maybe shy to Yehud Tato, even in the Krishma. You're shy to a lower level in the Yichud, which Krishma represents. Or in order that should be the way it should be, what you can really do, you got to know about the higher part of it. Once you know about the higher part of it, then you can bring it into and make the lower part. It also makes the lower part very different. And that's the secret of Torah. That's the answer.
Thank you.